In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue ink by Noodler's Blue Steel. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below in the description so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the blue ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more blues, you could find that there. I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone, maybe just a hair lighter than a stub, while the medium's much darker than everything else on the page. I'm stopping and looking again, and I really do think there are a couple of shade spots. I'm going to take that no shading back. In the extra fine on the Q and the K are dark. The word the is much darker than the word over. The PS of jumps is a bit darker, so there is a little bit in the extra fine, and even in the medium, it gets lighter in the middle of quick and lighter in the middle of brown. I take my shading comments back. The extra fine took 11 seconds to dry, while the medium took 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show a tiny bit of color variation, and it is there. The smear test says you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Cross Bailey with a medium nib was inked up, used for day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, but plenty of ghosting. Much better in person than on camera, as in I see it much better. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading this time for sure. The extra fine is darker than a stub, and the medium is certainly darker than the extra fine. The extra fine took 18 seconds to dry, and the medium took 31 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine is showing some color variation far left to far right, while the medium shows none, but we're not getting it in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this green line that's very quickly forming at the bottom, and it's pushing its way up, and then a very bright blue at the top. Now the one on the right that's allowed to dry for 10 minutes, that green line very sank in, joined with the paper quickly. Now that blue is pushing up. It gives us the idea that that green may be a resistant color. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine's the same tone as the stub, while the medium is much, much darker. Extra fine took 9 seconds to dry, and the medium took 14. The extra fine says there should be color variation, but there's none. The medium said none, and there is none. And the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation if I need to go back and highlight, because you're going to lose something. There's a lot of smearing going on there. Water's lifting all the blue, but not the green, and Pen Flush is having the same problem. 1/3 bleach solution is getting rid of a lot of the ink, but not all of it. Now, it really only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. Not done for performance sake, but for color. So if you're writing in a professional environment and expect this blue, when you put it with the yellow backdrop, you get a very turquoise looking color in the stub and in the extra fine. And while the medium was writing drier right there, it was turquoise, but when it wrote wet, you got still very much that blue, not exactly the same, like a very dark turquoise or dark blue leaning turquoise from it, but it could pass there, not here. This could matter for you. For the inks tested, the average viscosity is 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's blue steel has a viscosity of 2.25, so it's normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity test and all that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. Now let's take a look at Leuchtturm 1917 paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. We don't get any of that really dark tone. We really get the lighter blue, which I kind of am enjoying here. The extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, while the medium took 8. The scrubby for both do show a little color variation. It's really not coming through in the writing. And the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's blue steel has an average dry time of 17 seconds, so it's not just normal, it's average. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Lots of heavy bleeding into the paper, but not through the paper. Not touching the page underneath, just making the back of the page unusable. Now, we get very, very tiny feathers that I almost don't want to call worth mentioning because it's 20-pound copy paper, and we do get them in the medium. We do get them in the extra fine. The medium didn't spread, but the extra fine definitely did. The extra fine's also lighter than the medium, and it is actually showing some shading. You see the starts darker and gets lighter. Over is certainly lighter than the word quick. It took only a second to dry. The scrubby says there should be some color variation, and we actually are seeing it there. And the smear test, you can't smear it, so you can't worry about it. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's blue steel, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a brown ink by Pelikan, a part of their 4001 series. Brown. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Noodler's blue steel? This is a very unpredictable blue. You need to test this from the pen and on the paper that you want to use. Its tone from a pen and the amount of shading are all over the place. I do still really like using it. It's just wildly unpredictable. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Now, for its darker tones, I really did like it without the shading from a very wet fine. But for the lighter tones that occasionally give a little bit of shading, I preferred from a dry fine, so I'm no help there. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Sailor Kobe number 4.